I know you have had the chance throughout your career to get involved with, some sports medicine, as you said, and it's something you guys offer, sports medicine, stuff like that at Got Your Back. Tell us about some of the work you were able to do with team like the Washington Nationals and other sports organizations you may have been able to work with throughout your time.
Sure. Well, I've worked with a lot of athletes from, the pros to desk jockeys out there like you guys. Um, I think
I'd
of
say that's an
everybody.
accurate description.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're all, uh, you know, uh, well, let's just speak to the current times. I've been Tuesdays and Thursdays. The clinic hasn't been open throughout this whole pandemic situation, so I've been humbled to learn really what it takes to sit at a desk all day for even just one-off days here and there on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But anyway, I think of the human body as an athletic machine, and it's just the way that I think. I think that movement is medicine, and that's like the years old, like philosophy. That's just so true. Movement overall really is something that people aren't doing enough these days, and if or when they do it a little maybe too much, and sometimes, in my humble opinion, incorrectly. And they need to learn how to restore their body's abilities. So I say all that to kind of give you that foundation. Like, it's not really about so much the athletes that I've worked with, those top-notch athletes. They need to learn some of the simple things that I teach to everybody out there. So I'm an instructor for a movement system called Original Strength, and I've tied that in with my chiropractic techniques, chiropractic biophysics, and a lot of diversified types of techniques, and understanding that structure dictates function. Right? Think about that, or structure determines or governs the function of the body or of the whatever. Think about it like a car versus a truck. The structure of a car versus the structure of a truck determines what it is and what it does, right? So, or the structure of a water molecule, right? Like H2O is water, H2O2 is hydrogen peroxide. You don't want to drink something with an extra oxygen molecule on it, right? So think about that, and then understand how athletes have basically changed their postures. I talk a lot about my idol, Cal Ripken, right? And all you guys out there hopefully know who the Iron Man is, okay? That man showed up to work every single day. That's where I get my work ethic from, on an understanding like that. But how many times, do you guys know, because y'all are young, but how many times did he change his batting stance? Like,
All the time.
he changed his batting stance like every other week. And like, he was known as one of the better hitting shortstops in ever, right? But he wasn't like a what do you call it, he didn't bat fourth. What do you call that?
Cleanup hitter.
Cleanup. There you go. Right. Look at me. Like, I'm washed up, so I haven't paid attention to these things. Well, he wasn't a cleanup batter at all. Right. Like, I mean, maybe a couple of weeks in his career. But so think about that, right? The structure of the body, makes so much sense to understand. And then, so I've worked with a couple of athletes for the Washington Nationals, got them back out on the field pretty quickly. Some of them still required some surgical procedures and things down the line, but this was also before the regenerative medicine revolution, of including things like stem cell therapy and things like that. I've worked with some professional soccer athletes, a couple of football players, a couple of hockey players. So it's been a good time, fun time in my career to be able to get out there with some of those guys.
When you're working with these people, is it, you said some of them have gone on to require surgery. When you see a patient, is it your number one goal to keep these people off the operating table? Is that like the biggest thing?
That's a great question. I'd love to be able to. I think they would love to be able to.
Of course.
Right. So I think it's, what it comes down to is, whether or not the longevity of their career is going to require them getting on the surgical table, and their ability to heal after that, right? And so the younger you are, if you do have a surgical procedure, the better the outcome usually, right? And that's because the human body itself actually has more regenerative types of tissues like stem cells in it the younger we are. The older we get, right, the less regenerative we can be, right? With the less enzymes our body creates on its own and all those kind of things. So they're sort of up against the timetable, right? Like the younger they are, if they're in their 20s, you know, and they're thinking that they might need a surgery, like how many athletes, if you look at it, that got a Tommy John, right, surgery on an elbow in their young 20s can still pitch into their late 30s, most of them. But if they got that Tommy John in their 30s, they might not be able to handle it later on, you know, that much longer. So, you know, these are just kind of things that we think about, right? Like we do want to be able to restore people's movements and restore their function as much as we can. But sometimes it's still necessary to get them that orthopedic or neurological consult.